With the next patch, there is going to be a slight nerf to experience gains across the board. Now that we have the consideration system in and those changes, now that content has expanded to the in the sense that you can, content can stay relevant to you for longer. We're taking away the band-aid that we had put on by giving individual NPCs a scaling experience modifier, and I think it's going to be a good thing. Rules of engagement. Some of the earliest conversations I remember is with Brad and with kind of early in development when we were fleshing things out was obviously one of the things we're going for is an open world classically spirited game. So that's driven a lot of our decisions. So decision, for example, to not embrace like pervasive instancing in the game, but to really commit to an open world experience where players are sharing the same spaces. That is a fundamental part of the DNA of this game. That will never change. That will never change. The idea that we can hope that players will get along, hope that they'll share and play nicely, hope that reputation matters enough to keep certain behavior in check and whatnot. I think ultimately it's putting too much weight on hope and potentially balancing the game's future and its health and whatnot on hope. So, to that end, first of all, we are going to, and have already begun drafting, a play nice policy. There's most damage done, there's first to engage, there are these different kind of mechanics that have some effect on how these rules of engagement can work or play out. But at the end of the day, if you don't have like a guiding principle and a set expectation, then it doesn't really matter. And it's ultimately left up to a level of interpretation that I think creates a little bit too much in the current climate of gaming, a little bit too much of a Wild West situation that I just don't see being healthy for the game long term. And so a play nice policy is needed, and that play nice policy should be drafted in a way, and is currently, I've drafted most of it. I've gotten input and feedback from others, and some people have fed in on different things, but I feel confident that it captures the sense of how we expect things to play out. And it does allow for the notion that players have right to a camp that they establish. I'm not going to go in today to the details of the play nice policy just yet, because I want to wait until it's finished. Having a play nice policy that sets those ground rules in place, that sets those expectations in place, I think it's just needed. It's needed. We can't not have that. These rules, very important clarification though. What I'm describing right now has absolutely no effect on the PvP server. PvP servers, well, the ones that we're about to launch, the lawless ones, no. Like, there's no play nice policy, there's no nothing. Like, it's play at your own risk. In fact, like, that's, like, the PvP server is where you go if you want to absolutely, crap all over any of this kind of sentiment. What does this mean for our kill credit? The answer is, at this exact moment, we have not made a firm decision yet, but we are discussing it, and it's possible that we could change to an FTE system. It's possible. Essentially, it's a policy that establishes what we determine as kill stealing. Yeah, it's definitely similar to the EQ rules. Well, we will definitely have a filter for the spellbook. That is 100% happening. The spellbook, this is very placeholdery. Expect this to be pretty well redesigned to be more like a page turning situation, to have tabs on the side for things like mastery and other things, and then a filter and search and things like that. Yes, silence. That's an improvement we're going to make for sure to that. We're also going to be making some other changes with the tracking, like adjusting the distance. I think it's missing the dark orange con color right now, and there's some other issues like that we need to clean up. The Signet of Coursera. Now, when I introduced this yesterday, I introduced it as a buff that increases your attributes by 10%. Upon further reflection, I think it's a mistake to do it as a percentage. There's a couple of reasons for that, but I think where I ended up landing on it last night is just to give it a flat attribute bonus. 10% feels great. When you're talking about, you know, a low-level character that might have 5 or 6 points in something, you're talking about, you know, not even necessarily raising that attribute because the contribution is so low, or only bringing it up a single point. So I think this way it kind of evens things out a little bit. By the time clerics get to level 50, it should be about a 6-point increase. And when you think of that across the entire attribute range, it's a very significant buff. I changed the naming of the Writ ability from Writ of Refreshing to Writ of Skirmishing, and then continued that naming convention throughout the rest of the line, just to kind of make it a little bit more combat oriented. But and also gave it a slight buff as well in the very bottom hand version, or the lowest rank of this. So it's now, instead of an increase of 10 readiness per action that generates readiness, it's now an increase of 15, and then it goes up to 25 and 35 as it steps up. And we'll probably still keep playing with that number. That number is not set in stone by any means. That's kind of where we're at with it right now. I know I've said this before. I feel like I'm saying it a lot, but I'm very excited about getting the Verse Undead stuff dialed in a little bit more. Like the Sense Undead, for example. What I really want to do with Sense Undead is when you use it, it like desaturates your screen. This is what I'm envisioning, by the way, so I still have to have a discussion with those involved in making it happen to make sure that it can happen. But the way I'm envisioning it, how I'd like for it to look, is it like desaturates your screen, except for undead entities. And undead entities look normal, and they have like just a very slight glow around them, and then you get a little message in chat similar to Ranger Track that just kind of guides you to the nearest undead entity. And something about that just feels really cool to me when you sense undead. Feels more immersive that way. Tremel, great question. That is something we are likely to do. I even thought of putting it in the patch notes when we released the last one with the shaman dot changes, to say this is something we are kind of seeing how it feels, and we'll, you know, potentially apply the same approach to the other dots as well. And I think it's exactly, I think it's okay to have some that are exceptions, and maybe the Necro will, you know, have some that do have a direct damage on land component. But for the most part, I think we'll be moving in the direction that we just went with the shaman one. Can't wait for Druid next week. Me too. I'm excited.